Hello and a very warm welcome to Global Economy. It is wonderful to have you with us today. If you have been following the news, you may have seen reports about political disagreements and shaky financial markets across Europe. It can all seem quite confusing, so today we are going to take our time to carefully unpack what is really going on behind those headlines.
So let us begin with the main question we are hoping to answer. Why is Europe in trouble? You see, the chaos we are witnessing is not something that happened overnight. It is the result of many years of difficult decisions, economic challenges, and a feeling that the continent has lost its way. You might think of it like a slow-burning fire, one that has been smoldering for a very long time and has only now broken out into the open for all to see. To understand the full picture, we will piece this puzzle together step by step. First, we will look at the troubling symptoms. Then, we will explore the stalled economic engine that is causing them. After that, we will see how this has created deep political cracks and uncover a serious flaw in the design of the euro currency itself. And finally, we will examine the official plan for control and ask, what really comes next for everyone? Okay, let us start at the beginning. The problems we are seeing today are not really new. They are the final chapter of a story that began more than a decade ago, right after the major global financial crisis of 2008. That moment, it turns out, was a critical fork in the road for Europe. After that crisis, leaders around the world faced a very big decision. The United States and China chose to spend and invest money to get their economies moving again. But Europe, led by Germany, chose the opposite path. They focused on cutting spending and paying down debts, a strategy called austerity. This was driven in part by a deep-seated German fear of rising prices based on their own country's history. Looking back, many now see this choice as a mistake that set Europe on a much harder road than the rest of the world. That important decision leads us directly to the first major problem. Europe's economy has simply forgotten how to grow. For any society to do well, its economy needs to expand. This is what creates new jobs, new opportunities, and a sense of progress. But in Europe, for a number of reasons we will now explore, that engine of growth has stalled out. This one number really puts Europe's shrinking influence into perspective. Back in the year 2000, Europe's economy made up a full 1/5 of all the world's economic activity. By last year, that had fallen all the way down to just 14%. So while other parts of the world were growing, Europe was actually becoming a smaller piece of the global pie. And this is not just an opinion from outsiders. These powerful words come from Mario Draghi, the man who used to run the European Central Bank, the most important financial institution on the entire continent. When he describes Europe as an aging giant in a slow and agonizing decline, it is a very serious warning from someone who understands the system from the inside out. This simple comparison of the biggest companies tells a powerful story. In Europe, the top 5 corporations are, on average, about 100 years old. These are old, established businesses. But in the United States, the average age of the top 5 is less than 40 years old. This shows that America has been much better at creating the new, innovative companies that define our modern world. So why is there this lack of new growth? Well, there are several reasons. Europe has not built a single giant company from scratch in half a century. A third of its most promising new businesses have moved away. Investment in research and new ideas is only half of what it is in the United States. Add to that high energy costs that hurt factories and something called a brain drain where millions of skilled workers leave for better jobs elsewhere, and you have a recipe for a stuck economy. Now, when an economy struggles for such a long time, it always starts to cause political problems. People become frustrated, they become angry, and they feel that they have been left behind. They begin to lose faith in their leaders and their institutions. This is exactly what has been happening across Europe, leading to deep and bitter divisions in society. And you can see the result in how people vote. Back in the 1990s, about 10% of voters supported populist parties, which often challenge the way things are done. Today, that number has tripled to nearly 30%. When people feel that the traditional leaders are not listening or cannot solve their problems, they begin to look for other options, even radical ones. This loss of faith is also fueled by a growing sense that leaders are not accountable to the public. There have been major scandals involving bribery, and it was even revealed that a multi-billion-euro deal for vaccines was negotiated through private text messages with no official public record. To the average citizen, this looks like a secretive group making huge decisions that affect everyone, but without any openness. And just when the pressure inside Europe seemed at its peak, a shock came from its most important ally, the United States. For decades, America was seen as Europe's protector. That relationship has now gone sour. This leaked message from American officials reveals a new, harsh attitude. They see Europe not as a partner, but as a freeloader and a burden. This breakdown of the old alliance has left Europe feeling very much alone on the world stage. This brings us to what might be the most difficult problem of all. It is a problem that lies at the very heart of the European project, its single currency, the euro. The euro was meant to bind the continent together, but a fundamental flaw in its design may now be doing the exact opposite. It may be tearing it apart. The core problem is simple when you look at the numbers. Take a country like France, with a total debt of more than 3.5 times its entire yearly economic output. Now look at Germany, whose debt is much, much lower. Yet they both use the exact same money and have the exact same central bank setting interest rates for them. So the question is, how can one single interest rate possibly be right for both countries? It is a puzzle with no easy solution. Because there is no easy answer, a new trend is appearing called financial repression. It sounds complicated, but the idea is fairly simple. It means that individual governments are quietly taking back control of the money. They are starting to direct their own banks on where to lend, often towards government projects. The unfortunate result for savers is that interest rates often do not keep up with inflation, meaning their savings quietly lose value over time. It is a subtle dismantling of a unified European money system. Now, Europe's leaders are not just sitting back and watching all of this unfold. They do have a plan. But this plan seems less focused on fixing the deep economic and political problems we have talked about, and more on making sure they can control the flow of money and maintain their grip on the system. Their strategy has two main parts. You can think of it as a carrot and a stick. The carrot is a plan called the Savings Union. The goal is to encourage people to invest their 10 trillion euros in household savings into European projects. The stick is the proposed digital euro. This would be a new form of digital money from the central bank. Officials say it is to modernize payments. However, some have also admitted it could allow for absolute control over how people's money is spent, which has raised serious concerns for many. All of this brings us to our final and most important section. Given all these deep problems, the lack of growth, the political anger, the flawed currency, and the leaders' plan for more control, what is likely to happen next, and how might it affect ordinary people and their hard-earned savings? While nothing is certain, some trends do appear likely. The euro, as we know it, faces a very difficult future. To prevent people from moving their money out of the system, governments might introduce capital controls, which are rules that limit how much money you can move or where you can send it. This suggests a future where wealth is determined more by government policy than by free competition. The winners may be companies closely connected to government spending. The losers could be traditional investments and banking. The bigger picture is that the era of a strong, unified Europe as a leader of the West seems to be fading away. So, we are left with a final, powerful question. It seems Europe is heading for a great reset, a period of major change. But will that reset lead to necessary reforms that make the continent stronger and better for its citizens? Or will it lead to ruin, a slow, painful decline that breaks the Union apart? The path ahead is not yet written. Thank you so much for joining us here at Global Economy. We hope taking the time to walk through this complex topic has been clear and helpful for you. If you found it valuable, we would be very grateful if you would press the like button, share this with family or friends who might also find it interesting, and subscribe to our channel. It truly helps us continue to bring you these important stories about the world we all share. Thank you again for your time.